Hi everyone, we are back with the Papo de Recruiter live. So I'm going to add Carol to this live today. But basically our weekly live is about bringing news about the job market, and we want to share some insights and our opinion as well. So if you have any, I will just add Carol here. And just give your opinion. Please feel free to send here in the chat or in the message on Instagram. So,
Uh,
hi, Carol.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, good, and you? Good to see
Oh,
you.
good.
It's a
Oh,
really
good.
nice day outside, right? It's very
Yeah.
sunny. Ah,
Sunny and warm, you know?
yes, that's a good day.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was saying that we are back with the Papo de Recruiter Live.
Yeah.
We want to share some insights, and we have we chose one new about the. Let me just check here. So many things happening, but yeah. So how does a bad job interview impact in an organization?
Yeah.
So let me just open here.
First thing to ask is who doesn't have a bad interview?
Yes, experience.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, we
So,
prepare many candidates to go to the interview, and always we give some tips, but we never know what is really the person will be expecting,
yeah.
because we never know who will be the interviewer and what's expecting from that interviewer.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, this article it's more focusing the how the company is seeing when having providing a bad interviewers, know how it impacts the organization.
Yeah, no, that's true. So, I will share the link after, but so the title of the article is How Does a Bad Job Interview Impact an Organization? So, and it just mentioned that a poorly devised interview policy doesn't just affect potential job seekers, it can reverberate through a company, impacting everyone. And so I think, as you were mentioning, Carol, interviewers are like any of us. So, and sometimes people are not trained enough. Maybe they are doing something, they are doing interviews in a rush, or there is a lot of things that can happen in an interview.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it can happen, and it's, I would say it's quite often, right, Carol, that a lot
Yeah,
of interviewers, they are not prepared or can give an
yeah,
impression.
yeah. I think sometimes is the interviewer is not prepared to do interviews,
Mm-hmm.
because I think as interviewers, the person needs to have a training to do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
For example, to follow some standards, especially in Ireland, normally the questions asked always, if you ask one question for a candidate, you have to follow the same questions for all the candidates.
Yeah.
You cannot do a completely different kind of questions,
Yeah.
because then it will be difficult for you compare candidates. And also you have to be prepared to understand what the candidate is bringing and how to do a follow-up questions, or
Mm-hmm.
which kind of interviews you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we always think that it's only the who is going to the interview that you need to prepare, that you need to learn about the company and everything. But no, the interviewers also need
To
to
be
have
prepared.
trainings and to be prepared. They
Yeah.
cannot only, sometimes I see candidates coming and see and they give me the feedback. Oh, I went to the interview and the interviewer didn't even read my CV.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
person was there doing the interview and at the same time reading my CV or
Mm-hmm.
ask me things that were my CV and that the
Mm-hmm.
person didn't need to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really common, and I think it's a really bad experience for the candidate.
Yeah, I think so.
You know,
Yeah, yeah, I think
yeah,
so.
yeah,
And that's why for me as a recruiter, I always ask the candidates as well. So how was the interview? Because if there is something happening, I will know to
yeah,
follow up. Because
yeah,
I don't know, but I believe that some interviewers they can they can take your best in an interview, but they can also not help you to do your best. So I think
yeah,
some interviewers they are very good interviewing, but some of them because they are not trained or they just don't really want to be there,
yeah,
and they are not good doing an interview. I remember in one of the companies that I have worked for, we had a huge backlog of interviews. So we had a lot of people waiting to be interviewed,
yeah,
and it was clearly that a lot of people didn't want to be there interviewing people. So it's just one thing that it happens, it can happen.
yeah,
But that's why we need to try to minimize any issues that we can potentially have in an interview. For example, if any interviewer asks about some personal information or age or anything that is very, very personal, you can just say straight away, look, sorry, but I don't want to give you this information because sometimes we are afraid to say things,
yeah.
but we have to stop there.
Yeah, yeah. This is the one point, we are talking, for example, the regulation that is in Ireland, and in Europe in general. But if, for example, in some countries, they really go through some personal stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. For example, I had a candidate one time doing an interview for Ireland, but he was not from Ireland.
Uh-huh.
And then what's happened during the interview? After the interview, the person came to me and said, "Oh, I didn't have a great experience because they were really focused on my skills on the role. They didn't ask me anything about if I wanted to move to Ireland, or they
Hmm.
didn't ask me if I had family or anything like that."
Hmm.
And this was something that he didn't like be,
Okay.
uh, because of that his cultural
Oh yeah.
experience with the
All right.
interviews.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have to learn when we are going through the interview. And I always check who is the interviewer, understand the culture of the
Yeah.
country that I will be doing the interviews,
Hmm.
to go through with the right information and also to focus on the
Hmm.
right style of interview.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first time that I was looking for a job in Ireland.
Uh-huh.
One of the interviews that I went, the interviewer asked me if I wanted to have kids, for example.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
if yeah, for example, I didn't know about it, that
Yeah.
I could say no, I don't want to answer these kind of questions,
Yeah.
and then I answer, and after that I learned about
Hmm.
the GDPR and the all the regulations that he couldn't ask me
Mm.
that kind of question.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's the thing. We know it's part of the regulations here, but it can happen. It
yeah,
still happens, or just some interviewers that they don't know it. They are not well trained, but it can happen. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's true. But it can happen because, especially if the person is outside of the country and it's one of the interviewers.
Mm-hmm.
normally. But I always say to avoid this kind of experience or to learn more about this, it's really important to check about the company culture,
Yeah.
about the style of the interview
Mm-hmm.
is in that company, how it works and everything.
Yeah.
Because there are so many websites giving this kind of information.
Mm-hmm.
When we do an interview and we have a really great experience, I think it's worth it. You go there, for example, sites like Glassdoor and the other review,
Yeah.
which kind of questions you face or how was the experience. And
Mm-hmm.
also, when you have a bad experience, you have to go there and add.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
for example, timeline to give
Mm-hmm.
feedback or number of rounds of interviews.
Mm-hmm.
How normally this kind of information you can find on Glassdoor, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I feel that is really important.
Mm-hmm.
As a candidate, you check it, but also as a company, I
Mm-hmm.
think it is a useful website to
Yeah.
measure if you are having some issues with the
Yeah.
interviewers in the company, if you have to work in the trainings for the
Yeah.
interviewers,
Mm-hmm.
because if your score it's coming down, there is something.
Yeah. Something is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think so. So here in the article says when we think of a bad job interview, the majority of us likely think almost exclusively of how it affected the potential candidate, with little thought given to how it impacts the wider organization, as you said. So it's not, it impacts the company, and they, like, companies can have bad reviews as well from that. So it's not good.
yeah. And also, it is when we are talking about interview, it is a two-way street, you know.
Uh-huh.
Uh, you are evaluating the company that you
Hmm.
will be working for, and the company is evaluating your skills. They are
Yeah.
looking for the technical skills. But
Hmm.
when you are going through the interview, you are looking for the person that is interviewing you. And
Hmm.
also, you are trying to learn about the culture of the company.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
example, if you go through an interview process and the interviewer take 1 month, 2 months to give you a feedback or to come with the next round,
yeah,
some people will not be waiting
yeah,
for that
yeah,
time or will feel that it's a bad experience, that
yeah.
they are
You know,
not receiving any feedback.
yeah, for me, it demonstrates that the company is not well organized, or there's a lack of communication or processes. For me, I mean, as a
Yeah,
job seeker, I would think that, because I
yeah.
think it's missing something, in terms of the recruitment process.
Yeah. And it looks like, okay, if they are not giving me the feedback now, there is
Hmm.
a lack of communication now before I start working for that company.
Hmm.
Imagine when I start there.
Yeah,
It
that's
will
the
be the
thing.
same, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And here says research shows that a bad experience during the interviewing or hiring process can negatively affect not just the person who didn't get the gig, but also
yeah.
the employees and leadership who are tied to that company. So, in what ways can a badly run interview harm an organization? So then it mentions that how it can impact an organization, like drains the pool, word travels because everyone can communicate and spread the word, like, oh, I did an interview with, I don't know, XYZ and it wasn't a good experience. Um, but yeah, harms
Yeah.
morale, and yeah, so it's a good article in terms of, because sometimes we just think of our side as a job seeker, like, oh, and it wasn't good, but then It wasn't good for me, but also spread the word. I think
Yeah.
it's important to, as you said, leave the a review in Glassdoor, or maybe, yeah, just or maybe even give a feedback to the company as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I've been waiting for a month and I didn't have any feedback, or the experience wasn't very professional, or yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I think it is really important to give the feedback, for
Mm-hmm.
the company, or send a follow-up message to ask for update,
Mm-hmm.
because when the company brings you to an interview, you are taking your time
Yeah.
to go there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not, sometimes we think, oh, it's the time that I'm going to the interview. But
Yeah.
it is not only that. It's not only the 1 hour that you are doing the interview,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
is all the time that you dedicated
Thanks.
to
Mm-hmm.
preparing for that interview.
Yeah.
And the company needed to think about it.
Yeah.
You as a candidate are preparing yourself to go to the interview, are taking your time, are the company is creating an expectation that
Mm-hmm.
if the things are going well or not, and it's really important you receive a feedback. Some
Mm-hmm.
people come to me and they say, "Oh, I don't know if I send a follow-up to the recruiter or not." I
Mm-hmm.
always recommend to send to ask for a feedback, or ask the recruiter when you can expect to receive
Yeah.
the a feedback from the company, because it's really important. And also, um, as interviewed for a company, if you you have the right to request a feedback,
Yeah.
they should give it to you. I know that some company give a really general feedback,
Mm-hmm.
but at least you have to ask.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's
some,
just,
yeah,
we don't have to be afraid to ask, okay,
no,
how many rounds that we have after this one? Or, and as you said, so you think of, would you think in that way? Would I be interested to work with this person? So, because if someone that is very rude, or is not listening, or any bad situation, say it, just maybe think if that's something that you are looking for.
yeah,
I know that sometimes, like you mentioned, it was your first interview, so you really want something, but sometimes if you have the option to wait and see if you can get a better experience
yeah,
with a better company, I think it's worth it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I already faced this situation when I was changing jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Once I went to an interview, and then during the first round of interview, I could feel that for sure was not the place that I
Really?
would work, for
Yeah.
sure. In the first interview, I could feel that. I
Yeah.
didn't like the style of the interview. I didn't like the kind of questions and
Mm-hmm.
how they interacted during the
Mm-hmm.
interview.
Mm-hmm.
And when the interview finished, I sent an email to them and said, "Thank you so much for your time, but sorry,
Mm-hmm.
this is
Mm-hmm.
not the place. I don't see myself in this company,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't match with my values. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to keep in the process." We
Mm-hmm.
have to do it
Yeah.
as a professional. We
Mm-hmm.
are choosing the kind of companies that we want to work for. And
Mm-hmm.
I know, Mari, you mentioned sometimes we don't have the time, we don't have many options, we need a job, but uh, if you, for example, in my case, if I went for kind of place like that, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't stay for 1 month there, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, we needed to know ourselves,
Yeah.
which we need to be sure about what we are looking for, and
Mm-hmm.
then choose the right place to work.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
even for us as an immigrant as well. So you can have the feeling that the company is not used to deal with immigrants or people
yeah,
from different nationalities. Um, so that's one thing, because my first experience here with recruitment, it was a very small recruitment agency, and I was really feeling different, because everyone was Irish. And in my second experience, I was like, I don't want to work for a 100% Irish company. Maybe, experiences are different, but in that
Yeah,
specific moment, it wasn't great. It's just because I wasn't feeling comfortable. But then, yeah, so I think it's good to be in a company where you can deal with many different nationalities as well. It's just some
yeah,
personal. You know yourself, as you said. You have to know yourself and think of, would I like to work for this company or not? To maybe be micromanaged. I don't know. You can have a feeling when you go for the interview as well, especially in person.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is one of the questions as well you can ask at the end of the interview, like how would be your managerial style, or a few things that you can
Mm.
identify if would match with your own values. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This is one great point that you brought about the questions to ask in the end of
Hmm.
interview. When we are preparing some candidates to go to the interview, we go to this step, and some
Hmm.
people say, "Oh, I don't have any questions to do in the end of the interview."
Yeah.
We always have
We
questions.
always have questions. Ask questions.
Yeah, sometimes the people are afraid to ask the questions. Or,
Hmm.
for example, what are the next steps, or what are the kind of the management that I will face in this company. We always have questions to understand more about the role, to understand more about the company. We need to do this kind of questions that
Hmm.
will demonstrate our interest in the company, but also that will give us more insights to
Hmm.
choose if you will want to work there or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think just to wrap up, I think it's important to see if you don't think the interview is fair, or if you
Yeah.
think that anyone asks you questions that is not appropriate, you can say to the recruiter. I think it's good to share, but be fair as well in terms of what you're going to review on Glassdoor or to give to the recruiter. But I think it's important to try to avoid to others to have the same bad experience like you had.
Yeah, yeah. I think bad experiences will happen always.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
will face it.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, we have to manage it. To think about what are the learnings that we
Mm-hmm.
take from a bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people only look for the bad experience.
Yeah.
But also we have to take some learnings. For example, oh, I could do different kind of questions,
Mm-hmm.
or I could bring a different thing for the interview,
Yeah.
uh, or also give the feedback after that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, talk with the recruiter, because always the recruiter is there to support you.
Yeah.
No, as yeah,
Yeah.
in the interview process, I think it is really important, to do
Mm-hmm.
these kind of steps. Check the
Mm-hmm.
learnings, do the research on Glassdoor and the other
Yeah.
websites to learn about the company,
Mm-hmm.
and think about the different things that you can do in the
Mm-hmm.
next interview, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think
perfect.
that's it. Yeah. So just to remind you all, we do interview preparations. So if you need any support, or if you need career mentoring as well, we are here to support you all.
Yeah,
Good.
perfect. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Carol. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. See you.
And
Bye.
have a good evening. Bye
You
bye.
too. Bye.